Most of the conversations that I've had on the podcast so far
Yeah.
have been Korean heritage folks.
Right.
When I first saw you starting to like post on LinkedIn, I was unsure because your name is Kim is your first name, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure because I had also seen your last name, your Vietnamese last name as well. But you're fully like ethnically Vietnamese, but you're living in here in Korea. Can you share just a little bit about your background? Because even from like how you would introduce yourself, you have many different backgrounds that kind of fit together, right?
Right, right. So I was born in Germany. My parents are Vietnamese, and I have two passports. My mom has a Belgian passport. My dad has a German passport. So when I was born, I was first actually Belgian, and my dad didn't have the German citizenship yet. So I was Belgian Vietnamese on my birth certificate.
Huh.
And yeah, I took on the Belgian passport actually all my life because in Germany you still had to do the military service.
Oh, really? Germany
Yeah.
has that too?
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
had
realize.
it, but it abolished it when I graduated high school. So then I was like,
Wow.
okay, now I can become German.
How fortunate for you, huh?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. And you've been living in Korea for how long now?
Now it's been like 3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
Wow. And in terms of like your other backgrounds make sense, right? Your Vietnamese heritage, your kind of German and Belgian passport.
Yeah.
What about like Korea? Can you share a little bit about your Korean story and why you decided to live here?
Yeah. So when we go way back, my first interaction with Korea or Korean culture was actually through Taekwondo. So when I was 7, I joined a Taekwondo gym. And back then I didn't know anything about Korea or even Taekwondo itself. I was just like, I saw Jackie Chan, I want to do that. So suddenly like a gym popped up near my home, and my parents just signed me up and was like, okay, then I do it. And the funny thing is like, I learned all the techniques in Korean. My sabunim, so my master, was actually from Iran. But he taught us everything in Korean. So every move we did was the Korean word for that. And we learned how to count and what like the Korean culture is and martial arts. So that was my first exposure to Korean culture.
Fascinating. And what ages were you doing Taekwondo for?
I started when I was 7.
7.
And I did that for around like 18 years.
Oh, wow. That long.
Yeah.
Did you ever, when you were doing Taekwondo, like come visit Korea at all for competitions or anything like that, or no?
No. I didn't do a lot of competition.
Okay.
I was just training, but the training was hard because my master is from Iran and they were like the hard guys, you know. So our training was not easy, but I never had fun like doing competitions. I did when I was small, but too much anxiety and fear, and I was too nervous to actually go fight and compete.
It's impressive because you're doing some like MMA combat stuff here in Korea, right?
Yes.
What kind of combat sports are you doing here?
So after I did Taekwondo, my master retired. So I was like, what do I do now? And there were no other Taekwondo gyms around me. And I found a Muay Thai gym in Germany. And I did that for a year. And then when I came to Korea, I wanted to also do like kickboxing or like start jiu-jitsu and MMA. And then I found a gym, and that's what I do every day now.
Okay. And like even the Taekwondo stuff, you said your masters were like, they were Iranian, right?
Yes.
But were there any like ethnically Korean kids that were at that Taekwondo gym or that were teaching there? Or was it mostly just like non-Korean ethnic people there?
Yeah, the funny thing is, was like all non-Korean. There was like one famous in the town. It was from Master Kim. Other than that, we didn't actually have any contact to real Koreans.
Because like even the I've spoken to a number of Korean Germans in Seoul, and then a few people just like on LinkedIn as well. And I know there's a pretty strong like Korean German community. Did you have any touch points with them like during your upbringing, or was that not really a big influence on your Korean interest?
I had one Korean friend later in my teenage years. Other than that, I didn't have any like. I didn't meet Koreans, so when I got into like the Korean culture and like the Hallyu wave, it's like I wanted to meet Koreans, but I didn't meet anyone. It's like, where are they?
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. And like the interest, because you ultimately decided to move here,
Yeah.
right? So like take me from maybe first touch point of Korean culture being Taekwondo,
Yeah.
that kind of background, to you deciding to live and work here full time. I know you're working for a German company as well, right?
Yeah.
Doing remote work.
Yeah.
But how does that transition happen?
Okay, so like the Korean culture was somehow kind of popular in the Vietnamese communities.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say like it's popular around Germany, but it was like specifically the Vietnamese communities because it was like popular in Asia basically.
Hmm.
So we got exposed to that, and then one of my friends just recommended me like watch a Korean drama and listen to K-pop, and was like, first I was more into hip hop and like the 2000s, you know, like 50 Cent and all that, and I couldn't really relate to it when I first like opened the first like K-pop song. I was like, wow, this is so too flashy. I was like, what kind of hair color do they have? Like, what kind of fashion is this? Everything is like so tight because I was so used to wearing baggy pants and everything is like super loose.
Yes.
And then I was like, this was like a completely different world. So I couldn't really relate to it. So after a while, like people go, hey, have you watched this drama? Have you listened to this song or know this group? And I was like, maybe I just give it a try. And I watched my first Korean drama. It was Boys Before Flowers.
Huh. Okay.
And it was a very popular one back then. And the thing is like, it was also, the production was like way lower than what we see in Hollywood. Like the Hollywood production is like so high value, the grading and everything. And this looks like it was filmed by like a phone camera, you know? It's like no grading, it's just like there. And but somehow the story, it like caught me. I was like, okay, let's watch the next one. It's like, okay. And then next one, like, suddenly like you watch the whole thing. I was like, oh, it wasn't bad. Like the production is not there yet, but like the story was fun, and it also like rooted me to my Asian background. So it was more relatable. It's like, oh, I know what they're doing. Like everybody gathers on the table to eat, or they have like some, I don't know, like some traditions that I could relate to, or also the mindset that I can see. Okay, this is what I know from my Vietnamese culture.
Yes. And
And when I watched the Hollywood TV series, it was maybe sometimes some things I just couldn't understand, like the mindset, or like how like children like yell at their parents or stuff like that, or the thing I found most fascinating, that Americans wear shoes inside.
Yes.
So this
that is very
like,
fascinating. Yeah.
wow. It's like, how do you wear shoes and everything's dirty then? Or even on a bed, you know?
Yeah, but what about in Europe, like in Germany? They're ethnically like not like, you're just like white European friends. Is that not a standard custom as well, to wear shoes inside? Do you know?
I went to visit some German friends, but I don't think we wear shoes inside.
It's just an American thing for the most
Probably.
part. Fascinating.
Yeah.
And so you started, this was like what, high school age when you started
Yeah,
watching
high school,
some of these
I
Korean
think
dramas?
around like 14, 15.
And
And since then, it's like I could see my playlist. Like we used to burn CDs for the drive. You know, it's like it slowly from like US pop music, slowly like everything was just K-pop.
Wow. But what about like other like Asian pop? I guess was like Japanese pop or was Chinese pop? Was that stuff like popularly consumed, or were you not exposed to as much of that?
I wasn't exposed that much to it. So I would say everybody starts with Japanese culture. So you watch animes, and, stuff like that first, and then suddenly it opens you up to more Asian cultures, and then you go into the Korean wave. Because I would say like the Japanese soft power has been stronger for way longer. So in the 90s, everybody would just watch Dragon Ball Z or like all the other animes that were popular back then.
Yes.
And back then, Korean soft power wasn't as strong. So everybody was first exposed to the Japanese culture. And then slowly, like people was like, oh, I get interested in the Asian culture. And then people would naturally move to the Korean Hallyu wave.
In terms of like you had kind of described some of the overlapping, I guess, like cultural values between, let's say, like Korean culture and even Vietnamese culture is like consuming Korean content and media. It's a little bit easier for you to relate to. In terms of your like Vietnamese background and heritage as well, your parents, they immigrated to like Europe when they were quite young, or how close are you still to your Vietnamese background as well?
They emigrated in the 70s. So after the war, they fled the country. So they were probably around like in the mid 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And yeah, so basically I grew up Vietnamese. In my household we would speak Vietnamese only because my parents didn't speak German well. So I would only speak Vietnamese. So that's why my Vietnamese is also better than of my friends because their parents like spoke a little bit more German with them. Yeah. So they would like, oh, okay, then I can just communicate in German and then they would understand it. But mine would be like, okay, you have to go full Vietnamese and sometimes throw German words in. But other than that, like it had to be Vietnamese.
Interesting. Because, and I ask partly because like three weeks ago, I had my first trip to Vietnam, and it was interesting because very early on with like the whole Cambridge just idea is I was looking for other people that were building maybe something like Cambridge already to see if it already existed, like some sort of like global community for Korean diaspora. And then I didn't find anything for Korea, but then I came across Quang, who's like really popular on LinkedIn as well, and he was doing overseas Vietnamese. And we had like a collaboration event in Saigon like 3 weeks ago, and we were having like a casual conversation. And it was interesting because the only two like kind of diaspora communities that I think are actively being built, which is Cambridge and overseas Vietnamese, they both have this history of having like a north and south divide, of having like a lot of internal political turmoil, but it makes for very interesting backgrounds and projects like this to exist. And then we have the collaboration event happening next Saturday, so it's very exciting for me to have you there. So like I'm seeing so many different cross-cultural backgrounds, whether it's Korean people moving to Vietnam or Vietnamese people or like Vietnamese diaspora people, you know, coming to Korea. So it's very cool that I found you as well. Yeah.
It's I watch your podcast, and it's funny that we Vietnamese Germans, we have very similar story. So everybody is like grew up at home in a Vietnamese environment, and suddenly we go to school and suddenly everything was German. So there's like this kind of like conflict between the two cultures. Like, okay, at home I have to be Vietnamese, and outside I have to somehow find my way.
Yes.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Did you ever think, because like you ultimately decided to move to Korea, had the idea ever come upon you of like maybe moving to Vietnam or living there? It's interesting that the Korean culture resonated with you so deeply in terms of like interest and comfortability wise, which is pretty amazing. But did you ever have ideas of like maybe going back to Vietnam at all?
Not at all. So I think in the past 20 years, I visited Vietnam twice. Since my grandmother passed away. Before that, I would go every year. Like my mom would take me to visit my grandmother, and I still have relatives there. But since she passed, there's not a lot of touch points. And what I love about Korea is that it's Asian, but somehow very Western. So it's not as chaotic as Southeast Asia.
Yes.
So it still has order. So that's what I get from my German culture.
Yes.
But still, it's Asian, so that's what I get from my Vietnamese culture. So it somehow blends in well.
Yes, that makes sense. And I feel like with a lot of people that take some interest in coming to Korea, a lot of it did originate from kind of like K-pop, K-drama influences, at least if they're not like ethnically Korean, right? What your first like actual physical touch points in Korea, when was that?
So I was like consuming a lot of K-pop and K-dramas after school. I go home and just watch YouTube all day and watch dramas. And some dramas was like, they were not even popular, but they were like 150 episodes. So I would just like binge them in a weekend.
Yeah.
And then I had this dream like after high school that I would visit Korea. But my parents were like, but you don't know anyone there. Like there was a lot of like fear and like they didn't know what I'm gonna do. So they told me like, yeah, you should just first start going to university, and then you can do whatever you want. And luckily, after I entered university, there was like an exchange program. So I found everything out about it and did my research. Found other students who went there, and then I just talked to them. It's like, oh, how was the process, everything. And then I went to the office, how do you call it, like the office where they do the exchange program in university. So I went there, and then I just asked them, like, how does it work? And the woman who tried to consult me didn't know anything about it, while I had all the information that I gave her. It's like, oh yeah, so this is what I found. It's like, you have to sign up here, and then this is the process. And it's like, oh yeah, you're the first one that actually wants to go to Korea. It's like, okay.
You went to the office. This was in Europe, or this was in Korea?
Germany.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. And so you stayed here in Korea for like just a few months then on exchange program?
Yeah, it was like one semester, so it was like 4 months. And when this was like really a kind of like a time where everything was uncertain. But one thing was certain, that I want to go to Korea. So in my first semester, I would go to that office, I get all the information. But in university itself, I was studying electrical engineering. And yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so I failed some, I passed some exams. So it was like, what do I do here, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I have to just go. I have to take this chance and just go. And yeah, and then I went. And when I first arrived in Korea, it was something magical happening. Like, I've basically been living virtually in Korea through all the Korean dramas and stuff. So in my head, I was living there for like probably like 5 years already.
Yeah.
And then when I first came, I was like, this feels like home. It's like, it was like a very deep connection where I feel very comfortable. And it's hard to describe to a lot of people who have not experienced that feeling. But it was like, I'm finally home. That was my feeling. Yeah.
Fascinating. What do you attribute to that? Because like, I think for me, and we talked about this when we had a coffee chat before, is I kind of had like a similar experience where it just felt very comfortable for me, even though I didn't speak much of the language at all. But the way that I would justify or explain that self to me is maybe kind of my cultural upbringing is like my grandparents would feed me Korean food. So like some of the tastes and all of that stuff was very familiar. Or even the language, I would hear it. And that would make me quite comfortable. But I mean, I guess as I'm explaining this to myself, for you, it's the fact that you had consumed maybe so much Korean content that it felt quite comfortable. But then maybe the second, like a follow-up question would be, a lot of people come with some sort of expectations of what Korea will be like because of all the content that they consumed. And then like sometimes they end up being disappointed, right? But that wasn't exactly the case for you.
No, it was like exactly how it was. Like seriously, like, because Korea is so good at like sneaky marketing and product placement. Like all in all the dramas, you see all the popular chains that you have here in Korea. So you would say, you would see a Paris Baguette somewhere, a Tous les Jours on the other side, and then you would have like some pizza places like Domino's Pizza, Subway.
Yes.
They would all sneak into a very natural setting. And I would probably say the first couple of years, I didn't know that it was like a product placement. It just felt natural into the story.
Yes.
Now these days, I see it more like obviously, but before that it was like, oh, I want to try this place. It looks amazing. Right? Oh, they have like tteokbokki in this place. Like, oh, and when I came here, I knew all the brands that were there. I was so excited, right? So I was like, oh, I have to try this. I saw this in the drama. It must be good. So
Wow. Yeah. But then you also had kind of explained how, like some people have these phases that they go through where it's like maybe they're into Japanese anime, and then they get into Korean content later, right? But for you, like that hasn't really worn off, like the interest in still K-pop, K-drama, that kind of content. Is that right? Would that be fair to say?
I would say the intensity went down a lot. I mean, like if you're in your teens, you have a lot of time. So in that time, you just consume everything. And now I'm more selective. So before I would follow like all the K-pop bands, but now I have my core K-pop band, which is Twice, and I follow them. And of course, like I hear here and there, but I'm not like too invested in other groups. I just like, oh, this is a new group that came out. The song is fire. But other than that, I was like, okay, I don't need to know when is their birthday.
Yes.
When did they do they debut and who's producing them? It's like I don't go down the rabbit hole too deeply.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Also, Korean dramas. Now I feel like the Korean dramas getting more popular in the West and internationally. The thing is, like, I feel like it lost some of its Asian nuance because now they think too global and they have to think about all the cultural, let's say, like, to be culturally correct or politically correct.
Yes.
All the senses. So it somehow loses its touch, I feel like. So in the past, I would say maybe 10 years, I haven't like actively consumed that much anymore. But yeah.
But in terms of your experience living in Korea and your satisfaction with like quality of life, as compared to other experiences that you've had, like I guess have you spent any time in like you said you visited Vietnam obviously growing up as a kid and stuff like that, but have you spent any time in like Japan or other Asian countries at all?
I did a lot of like traveling. So I would spend like 3 weeks here, 3 weeks there and explore the country. But even though I traveled all these different countries, like Korea still feels like the number one to me.
And the internship, or I guess it's not an internship, it was the study abroad program. So you did that, and then after that ended, were you just like, okay, I'm going to be coming back here at some point? Like,
First, after you had this kind of experience, you go back and then you fall into like a deep depression because it's like, in Korea, I could have had this kimbap late at night. I could have just go out with my friends. I could have like a soju with friends and play some games. Stuff like that, right? And then in Germany, it's like at 6, everything is like closed. And it's very quiet. On Sunday, everything is closed. People stay at home much. And yeah, you fall into that. And then you was like, okay, I don't want to live in this like mindset. So how do I get back? This is my second question. It's like, okay, this is now I have to go back, even if it's like for vacation and stuff. I need to go back as quickly as possible.
And then you made that happen somehow, yeah?
Yeah. So it took another while. So it was 2014 when I did my exchange, and then I came back again 2 years later. In 2016, and then from there I was just like every year I just spent like probably like 6 weeks in Korea, then travel a little bit around. But it was like every year I had to come back. But it was never like satisfying because it was too short. And right when I was turning 30, I had the chance to do the working holiday in Korea. So this was my last chance to like have an extensive stay.
Yes.
In Korea for a year. And just to try, okay, do I really want to live in Korea? Because a lot of people like they make this big decision without testing the waters first. So this year would be like, okay, this gives me a chance to experience it. If I don't like it, I just come back and live a normal life again in Germany and can travel back to Korea whenever I want. But if I really like it, then I will find a way to stay.
Yes, that's very interesting. And you think like because my experience living in Korea has also been very, very good, right? But it's also because to some extent. Like I'm not fully immersed into like Korean society. Is like if I was working for a Korean company, it would be a whole different experience, right? Or if maybe I had some like familial pressures and like social pressures put onto me by the culture, that maybe my view or experience of Korea would be quite different. I was also talking to some like Korean Americans that do live and work for Korean companies, and also like some Korean Germans as well. And one of the things that they tell me is they try to remind their colleagues that like, hey, I'm not Korean, so that they can get a pass in terms of certain behaviors or communication style. I assume like if you had to work for a Korean company, maybe it would be a different experience overall, or what do you think?
Yeah, I would think definitely it would be a different experience. So that's what I tried to avoid.
Yes.
So it took me so long because I had to find a way where I could stay in Korea without working in Korea. And yeah, and then when I started my job at the startup in Germany, I was also very clear that I want to live in Korea, live a kind of a digital nomad lifestyle. I talked to the boss and he's like, yeah, we support it. And then when it came to me actually going, I was like, Kim, can you maybe change your plans a little bit? I was like, no, this is what I have to do. I'm willing to give everything up to go and experience that.
Wow.
And then we did found an agreement that instead of being a full-time employee, I could be a freelancer, so I can work out of Korea. And that's made the experience much better, so I could stay in Korea, not work for a Korean company, and still have this lifestyle that I have right now. Because my fear was also like, okay, once I get to a Korean company, things would be much different, and I don't want to be thrown into that. And
yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And the way that I had first come across you is because you had been writing these posts on LinkedIn, kind of giving like advice or just talking about your own experience living in Korea as a foreigner. Like, and you also have kind of like a part-time kind of side gig where you're doing some advisory services for people that are looking to move to Korea. When did that start, and how did that start?
So when I first came to Korea with the working holiday, I was like, okay, maybe this can become a business. So every step I did, I documented it. So how to fill out this form, how to what's the next step once you arrive in Korea. So I wrote down every single step because I know once I let it slide, I forget what I did. So you had to be very close to what just happened and documenting it.
And the reason why you decided to document it was because you knew that maybe you could do some sort of advice-giving service in the future?
Exactly.
But how did you know that? Because there are some, I guess, like individual consultants or companies that do that professionally, or was there like a gap in the market that you saw from your own experience?
Yeah, because when I just tried to find information about the working holiday visa, there were not much.
Yeah.
So especially any visa or any related like steps on getting a visa is not very clear. If you try to search, or how do I get a visa for a certain visa, you go to 5 different embassy websites, Korean embassy websites, and they have all different like requirements. Like if you go to the German one, you get a different requirements. When you go to Singaporean one, you get a different. So most of the time I was very confused, like what do I need, right? So I wanted to make this very clear for people who like were in my shoes.
Yes.
That can go through those steps quickly and easily.
Yeah. So you've been, I guess, doing that for what, a few years now? Was that basically since you had moved to Korea, you started providing some advice to other people that were looking to move to Korea as well?
So I did a lot of stuff for free, and I'm just willing to help. Like this, like I imagine myself like, oh, I'm in that shoes, and I would have had somebody who helped me through all those steps.
Yes.
It would be like, I would be so thankful. So that's what my mindset was, like, okay, just put it out for myself. So that's why I did all the documents, and writing all the guides because I experience it and I don't want you to go through it.
Yes.
You probably will, but I don't want to if you read my articles.
Yeah.
So it makes your life easier. Yeah.
What are, like, in terms of the biggest pieces of advice that you give to people that are considering maybe moving to Korea for like a year-long stint doing like freelance work or some part-time job opportunity or like the working holiday visa situation, in terms of like things that they should be actively thinking through that oftentimes maybe like they would overlook if they didn't do some deep research? Are there a few things that you generally recommend they keep in mind?
Yeah, so if you go through your documents, you should look at the embassy website for your citizenship. Because a lot of people is like, oh, I'm German, but then you suddenly go to the Spanish website, embassy website, and they have a completely different requirement.
Of course.
So you go to the embassy of your citizenship or in the country you are in,
yes,
and just get the requirement for that. Don't look at other websites. And also, when you arrive in Korea, what I didn't know is that you have to go to the immigration office within 90 days and submit your documents to get an alien registration card. This is what I didn't know. So I was like, okay, I'm in Korea now. I was like, this will be too easy. So there must be like another step, right? So that's when I found out, like, oh, you have to go and tell the immigration that you are here and tell your address where they can find you and all your what visa you were on.
Yes.
And submit all your documents that you did before again at the immigration office.
And the only way that you can get the alien registration card is by having a proper visa, right? Not just coming here as a tourist.
It has to be like a long-term visa, so it has to be more than 90 days. Then you will have to go to the immigration office. Yeah.
That makes sense. And your, I guess, like life in Korea now, like has it the first year that you were here compared to like year 3, in terms of the friends that you made and the activities that you do, how different is it from when you first got here to now in terms of like your proficiency with the culture and your personal hobbies and things like that? Yeah,
the first year was all about, I'm gonna do everything that I wish I could have done while I was abroad. So let's say there was a concert of like some artist. Oh, I know this artist. I have to go. So the first year I went to probably around like 20 concerts and like 2 a weekend. And then after a while I was like, oh, this is tiring. It's like too many concerts in a weekend. It's like on Friday I would go to concerts, like give all my energy. It's like on Sunday I have another one. So it's like, yeah.
That's a lot. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah. And you know, like in the first years, like everything is so new and kind of like, oh, you're like in the explore mode. You want to explore as many things as possible. So you also travel a lot and you go out a lot. Like you meet people in a hostel and it's like, hey, where are you guys going? It's like, going to bar? Okay, let me join, and then we just hang out more. Yeah. Makes sense.
And the like, given your extended experience just navigating the living in Korea life as a foreigner, like all the documentation and the process and all of that, like it seems like Korea has been trying to make the country more attractive to foreigners. It does seem like there's a lot of people, because of K-wave popularity, that are interested in coming to Korea. Is there anything that you've noticed over the last like 5 to 10 years in terms of, I guess, like how many foreigners that Korea is taking in, and maybe some of like the obstacles of like what would make it easier for foreigners that are, let's say, like top tier candidates, of like it would be valuable to have them in the country, because I do talk to some foreigners and they talk about how difficult the process is just to secure a visa.
Yeah, so the process itself has gotten a lot better. Maybe because I understand it much more. And also over 10 years, I would definitely say things have gotten a lot better. So if you talk to people who spend more than 10 years in Korea, they will tell you this was a completely different struggle, because it was basically like a two-tier environment. You have the Koreans and the foreigners, and the foreigners, even though you have all like the rights, like the alien registration card and whatnot, you were not allowed to do a lot of other things. Let's say you wouldn't be allowed to open a business or a bank account or stuff like that. And it was quite hard for them. And now I would say, because of the technology also, and I think they are migrating the databases and stuff like that, it becomes more open. And even if you are a foreigner and you have an alien registration card, there are not many things you can't do in Korea. So things have gotten a lot better.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's funny to think that, because I mean, I have only been here for like 6 to 7 months. I'm still in the process because I should be able to get the F4 visa, but documentation wise, my parents are preparing things back at home, which is making that a little bit tricky. And there are other visa opportunities available aside from the F4 visa that I could pursue, like some of the startup visas. But even those, they do require some like time investment, right? Which is not my favorite kind of path forward. But it sounds like it's a big progress in terms of what's happened over the last decade.
And also the information now, it's more readily available, even though everything might be in Korean, but now you have all the translation.
Yes.
And also now ChatGPT has done such a great job at explaining things to me. And you can also ask this question. So people at home, first question you should ask is ChatGPT. Like, because now all the information is available, you can just ask, okay, I have this certain amount of skills or like profession or like degree, what can I do in Korea? If you ask ChatGPT, that will give you some sort of like answer, and then you can ask it for like what are the required documents, and then walk your way through. So you basically talk to a real consultant. But then again, it's like you have to also see what are the recent requirements. You get like a general like overview what you need to do and what documents you need, but then you need the next step of like, okay, what are the most recent documents I will need.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you first came to Korea, like to move here like 3 years or so ago, from a language proficiency standpoints, did you know like basic conversational Korean because of some of the content that you consumed in your previous trips?
Yeah, I would understand a lot. So I spent probably like more than 15 years just listening to Koreans like 24 hours. So my listening was quite good, but my speaking was not good. I would also write quite well because I chat with my Korean friends in Korean. So it also gave me a lot of time to practice. And what I always did is like, okay, I want to write something in Korean, and then I would translate it, see if the message is correct, and then I would send it and receive it back. So that way you have like a real interaction, and you can learn writing and reading first, and the speaking is on a whole nother level.
Yes.
So I would say I didn't speak Korean for like 10 years until like I came back on the working holiday and was like, okay, now I'm here for a year, I should improve my speaking.
Yes.
So that's when I started to just like have my default language in Korean. Like every new Korean I would meet, I would like speak in Korean first.
Really? Yeah.
And then they would be kind of confused. Like, where does this dialect come from? It's not Seoul, but he also looks kind of Korean. So, what is this? Right? It's like, oh, I'm German. I was like, but you don't look like German. I was like, oh, well, it's like Germans look like me. Yeah, then I would tell them like, yeah, my parents are Vietnamese, then I live in Germany, and then they would like be more open to like talk, because they are not afraid to talk in English, because a lot of Korea is like their biggest fear is like just to speak English.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I bridged this gap first, and then from there on it's like I just speak more.
Wow. So at this point, in terms of like your future life aspirations, in terms of like living situation, I mean, you've been here for 3 years now, right? You could see yourself like likely living here for the rest of your life, or like, do you think there's a point at which maybe the comfortability and interest in Korean culture could start to fade? Like, how do you think about that?
I would still think like I'm settled in Korea, but I'm not bound to Korea. That means like if I want to go back to Germany for a vacation or visit my family, just hop on the flight.
Yes.
It's 10 hours.
Yeah.
And I'd be back for a while and then just come back. And I wouldn't say, I can imagine like being based here, but still be traveling around the world. So that's why a lot of people say like, okay, if I move, like it's forever. And a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves to having to make it work. Kind of. It's like, you can just go back anytime. So
Yes.
just to go experience it for a while, and if it doesn't fit you, just go back. Or like a lot of people like, no, it's gonna be a life decision. I'm gonna spend my life here. It's like, do it step by step. See how it works the first year, and then see how it works the second year, and then just re-evaluate all the time. So I would say for now I can imagine staying here forever, but who knows what happens in the next few years.
Nice. The last time we spoke, you were mentioning a little bit about your K-pop interests, and with me starting Cambridge, there's been a number of people that I've come into contact with who are either also very interested in K-pop, or they're building some sort of business, and maybe it's like K-pop, K-beauty, K-drama adjacent, and they're trying to like take it global, and they've been interested in having like recorded conversation about this as well. And as somebody who, even though I have like Korean heritage, like before coming to Korea, I hadn't consumed a lot of that content. Your interest in like K-pop, and you had sent me like a documentary that you actually kind of had like a short featuring in. Can you tell me a little bit about how that came to be also?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I was so deep into K-pop, and I was never like hiding it. Like a lot of people's like, oh, I hide my interests. And like, I'm really very publicly open about it. Like, oh, I like K-pop, I like this band, and then I just bombard them with a lot of like TMI, like too much information about all the bands that nobody wants to know. But I was always fascinated. So in a way, I imagined myself like, oh, what I'm gonna do with all this knowledge. So I was imagining myself, okay, one day I'm gonna be featured in a documentary and tell my view on how K-pop got popular in the West. And one of my friend, he's a YouTuber, one of the biggest YouTubers in Germany, Julian Bam, with now 6 million subscribers. He reached out to me and was like, hey, I might get some gig for Netflix and do some sort of like K-pop. Could you just give me like a 1-page brief about K-pop? It's like, bro, I was ready. I was ready for that.
You were born
moment.
for this. Yeah.
So I just write down, send it to him. It's like, wow, yeah. How did the meeting go? It's like, oh, it was really good. But then Corona happened, and then all the plans were gone. But I was always ready. So I had this file in my drive. So whenever another person reached out, I would be ready. And the funny thing is, like a mutual friend reached out to me. He's like, hey, my friend is a director for a documentary, and he just wants to know a little bit about K-pop. He might do some piece on it. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, sure. Connect us. I'm happy to talk about it. And I was the only guy who knew K-pop in his like friend circle who could recommend me, right? So, yeah, and then I talked to the director, and then I was just like, yeah, I'm probably going to live in Korea for a while, and then told all my life story, and he was like, you're gonna be in the documentary. I was like, cool.
Wow. And so what was I haven't had a chance to watch the full documentary, but what kind of questions were being asked of you? Just like your general interest in K-pop from a personal standpoint, or like how you why like K-pop had done so well in the West? Like what was a little bit of the content that you covered there?
My role was more like a K-pop fan, how I got interested in.
Yes.
And then we also interviewed a lot of other experts in the field, so I just need to tell my story about how I got into K-pop. And so that was like the first meeting with the director, but it took another year until we actually filmed. But I was always ready. Okay, I'm ready. If it comes in and I have to fly to Korea, just call me. Next day I'll be at the airport. I was like this ready. And and then one day it's like, oh yeah, we need some of your documents for the visa. So you're gonna be on like a media coverage visa, and then we will fly next month.
Wow.
Cool. I'm ready.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And but the thing, it was like during COVID, so not a lot of people were like open to get interviewed, and the streets were like a lot of like measures that were useless back then, but had to be like strictly followed. And we were in Korea for 2 weeks, and we had to find like content. Like they had some contacts with like some labels beforehand, but once we were here, they were not fixed. It was like, yeah, we could do that, but then it was like, yeah, we'll do it later or something like that. But once we were here, it was like, okay, we have to make it happen. And we luckily got in touch with, I think, Sony, and got to follow a group called Try B from their kind of like release for the next album. And we could like follow them through all the steps of them preparing the music video, shooting it, making some promotion about it, and then also talk to the producer, which is a very famous producer in Korea called Shin Sa-dong Tiger. He's done numerous hits in Korea. It's like, I would say from 2012 to 2018, he made all the hits that are famous in Korea. If you just play one of his songs to a Korean, it's like they will know it. Yeah.
And like when you were describing like K-drama content as opposed to just traditional Western TV, right? You had noted like the cultural differences, but when it comes to like K-pop and why you were drawn to K-pop or why you found it interesting as opposed to Western music, I guess like K-pop doesn't have as much of, I guess like the cultural influences in the same way that like a K-drama does, right? Like what was it like? How do you describe to somebody who has never really listened to a lot of K-pop, or maybe they have, but they don't just get why it has such deep fandom and like widespread success, like from your personal standpoint and also standpoint of just observing other fans in the industry of why they find it so interesting. I guess like how do you describe your own curiosity within
I would
K-pop?
say K-pop is just fun.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people take it too seriously. Oh, this is not music. It's like fabricated and stuff. It's like,
yes,
hey, it's just fun. It's fun to listen to. It's fun to see them do the choreography, the music video, and just listen to it like lightly. And a lot of people are like, oh no, it's not real music. Like, what is real music? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I would say it's like, especially at teenagers, you always have a season in your life where a kind of music like touches you deeply throughout your adulthood.
Yes.
Right. So after this passes, like it doesn't come back. So a lot of people like pass this point and then they look down on the teens, what they like to listen to. And in terms of what makes K-pop so special, I would say it's the interaction with the fans too. It's they are online a lot, so they communicate and stream with their fans and have a deep relationship with them. So the funny thing is also all the K-pop idols, they also know all the memes that fans fabricate. Yeah, so they're in the game with the fans, right? So they all speak kind of the same language together.
Yes.
And that's what it's so different than foreign artists. But a lot of people also say, yeah, but they don't speak the same language and they're so far away. It's like, even if you live next door to a pop star, you don't meet them, right? So all you get to see is through their social media, right? So people say, yeah, but they're so far away. They're in Korea. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's all like connection through social media. And
yes.
People just have like this, I don't know. It's like this belonging if they join a fandom.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I'm in this group. It's like, oh, you too. And like, we together just enjoy the same thing.
Yeah. And the group that you find like enjoy the most, like the reasons why you, it's just like the music itself. Is it the the people within that group, like the company behind it. Last time we were talking, you were kind of articulating there's like a structure, right, of like these different companies, and they produce different like types of artists with different styles. Could you explain a little bit of like your favorite artists and why they're interesting to you?
So my favorite artist is Twice. They are from the company JYP. And each of the big companies, they have some kind of like value and musical style. And you can imagine it's like you have Apple, you have Samsung, you have LG. They produce different products, but they still have this kind of style that they have. Like, oh, okay, Samsung produces now like 50 different phones. Apple produces 50 different phones. LG doesn't produce any phones anymore, but used to.
Yes.
But you are more inclined to look, oh, okay, they all maybe Android or iOS, and you see it's like, oh, I like this form factor more, or the specialty what they have in here. So it's the same with the groups that are being produced inside the labels. And what fascinates me about JYP, that his philosophy as the CEO and the brand of his company, that you have to first be a good person.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter how skilled you are, just if you are a good person, this is what I'm looking for. That you off the stage and on stage, that you behave like always show respect and be humble. And we don't want to have a short career, but as long as possible. So he's been in the game for probably like 30 years now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
30 years. Like he's been actively on stage and still holds his concert that sells out every year.
Wow.
So he's like, I'm gonna outlast everybody. That's his philosophy, right? Yeah.
Wow, crazy. And like this is switching gears a little bit, but even in terms of like your interest in Korea and your living here and your interest in the culture, like what you do professionally is like completely different, right? Like work-wise. I guess you're a software developer by like training. Is that right? Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about your experience having that kind of background, and then also like with some of the LinkedIn posts? Last time we were talking a little bit about like just AI and how there are cool tools that you have been exposed to. Like I've even seen from some of your posts, it looks like some of the storytelling that you do has also like some AI generated art as well. Can you tell me a little bit about your own like personal interests on a professional basis and how that maybe interacts with some of the stuff that you do online in general?
So I've been interested in coding since I was a child, because my uncle was a software developer, and he made good money. He always bought me toys, so I thought, hey, I want to be a software developer. I was very interested since the very beginning, since elementary school in coding, and
wow.
Yeah, and this basically, there was a time I was like, okay, I can be a software developer or content creator. But then my parents, they kind of pushed me into the engineering direction. Okay, this is a kind of more like a safe job opportunity that you can pursue. So I was like, okay, I still love my job and I do it well. And in terms of now with the content creations, like as a software developer, I always think in terms of automation and systems. So first, I write my blog posts, but I would say when AI first came out, I tried to use it, and I always had this kind of like trauma in school of not being able to write, because I failed all my like language courses. Like German I failed, English I failed. Yeah. But it wasn't because I didn't know the language. It was more like I didn't understand the literature and had to analyze like poems and stuff. I had no idea what it meant, right? Yes. So I had this kind of trauma. So now with AI, it allowed me to be more open and be more correct on the grammar and stuff. So now I just dump all my thoughts in and let it like rewrite my thoughts more clearly. And now it's like, okay, I match the style, and now I feel also more confident because I can write it on my own now too, and just have like a little polish with AI over it. And for the AI generated art, it was funny because on YouTube you always had to shoot your thumbnails, right?
Yes.
And it takes so much time. It's like it's always the last thing you do. It's like after you finish the video, it's like, oh, shit, I need a thumbnail. It's like, you click it, and you were kind of bound to what you can do in real life. And my Photoshop skills are not that great, so I was just testing. It's like, hey, just create me my character. That and at that time my profile image has like a hoodie and the blue beanie.
Yes, so like this,
that's
right?
what the points like. And back then there was no consistency between the characters. Just recently, so before I was like, okay, if I can't generate the same picture all over again, I at least have some pointers. So all my characters now have like a yellow hoodie and a baby blue beanie. Yeah, and it went through all the way. Till now. Yeah. It's pretty incredible. I mean, even from a production standpoint, is like recording and then doing the editing, doing the publishing, generating the thumbnail. Like this is something that I don't need to get virality, but it would be great like if some of these like kind of take off and there's a broader listenership, and the fact that a lot of these AI tools can unlock a lot of that. I'm constantly like worried, like I don't know the next like tool or thing to become proficient in, because things are changing so fast. But even just like playing around in conversation with ChatGPT a little bit is you start to ask it more complex tasks, or to automate other aspects of your life, or to feed you back more AI tools that you should be using. And the rabbit holes are very deep, you know, so it's quite exciting. I just like had just I think last week where like I was coding, so the AI was doing the coding, so I had to wait. So during that time, I told ChatGPT to write me like a pitch deck, and while it does that, and like on other image, like, oh, generate me an image. So I had like basically 3 different workers working for me. While I was like doing all the different tasks, like going back, like, oh, is my code finished? Okay, finished. Okay, in here now, publish this article. So now it's like, oh, okay, now I need like a cover for my image. So it's like you have a little army of robots working for you. Yes. Amazing. In terms of people that are interested, like other foreigners considering living in Korea and looking to get more personalized advice, like in terms of best ways to reach you, is that mostly LinkedIn is where you're most active? Mostly now on LinkedIn. So if you look for Kim Ninja, you will find probably a post with the yellow hoodie and the blue beanie. Yeah. And then you know that's me. Yeah. And also now I'm like spreading it in my newsletter or on my blog. And now recently I'm dabbling into like Threads. So I have my core content, and from there I'm like repurposing it on other on other platforms. Yeah, and in terms of like helping foreigners, this is what I do. And now I'm like going the other way. Like there are a lot of like Korean services and companies that wants to help foreigners. But the problem is they don't know how to talk to them or where to find them. And now I'm like structuring my company into, okay, I got all the community of foreigners interested in Korea, but they don't know the best services they can get from in Korea about living in Korea. And now on the other side, now I probably think more about the business. Is probably like, okay, now I have all the Korean companies who don't have a marketing strategy on getting the foreigners, because most of them kind of are more like metrics and KPI driven. It's not more about trust. But now foreigners, they're very like sensitive about it. It's like everybody can do a beautiful website in seconds, right? So a professional website is nothing that you need put time or like professionally put something into it anymore. And people don't just see the website and it's like, oh, it looks so professional, I'm gonna spend my money here. Well, they will like first look into YouTube. It's like, hey, has anybody has experience with this website? On Instagram, then on Reddit, and all the different platforms that Korean companies are not on. And then they will like think about like, hey, where are all the foreigners? We have such a great service, but nobody's coming and buy from us or like get the service from us, because there's this huge gap, and this is what I'm trying to solve in the next few months.
That makes sense. And are you personally pretty involved with like foreigner communities that operate? Because like I know there's a lot of meetups that get hosted, or like in Itaewon they have a bunch of stuff for foreigners. For you, like personally, are you involved with any of those communities, or do you sometimes just show up to some of those types of events?
Yeah, I'm not really involved in the communities.
Yeah.
I spent basically a year just at home and building. So I write all the posts and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like going out before, or I hadn't had I didn't know my selling point, or I had nothing to sell, right?
Yes.
I just live here. I have a very good life. And I'm a software developer, but I don't want to work more in software.
Yes.
So I didn't like engage that much in like networking events.
Yes.
But I have many friends who go, so
nice.
I get all the feedback from them, right? So
cool,
I have
cool.
people who actually go out and
Yes.
it's like, tell me what happened.
That's awesome.
What's new? What company should I look out for? Like,
Yes.
something like that.
Yes. Very cool. Well, it's exciting for me to find people like you. With Cambridge, it's a lot of like Korean heritage people that are from other parts of the world, but also the name like Cambridge is expansive enough to also include like non-Koreans that are living in Korea. And kind of similar to you, I found a lot of businesses that are very interested in maybe not only tapping into foreigners here in Korea, but also like abroad, whether it's like K-pop, K-beauty, K-drama related stuff. So it seems like the opportunity is quite vast. And I feel like you always, from the conversations that we've had, always bring like a very good energy. So it's appreciative. And especially when it comes to educating me on K-pop industry, I'm going to use you as a resource in the future as well. So thank you for doing the podcast. I appreciate it.
I'm also very happy that I can get finally on. I see all your clips on LinkedIn, they pop up. And all the interesting people that you have on, especially a lot of like German kind of like heritage, Korean heritage in Germany.
Yes.
And so it's like, oh, cool. And, yeah.
Well, when you were saying like one of the things about Korea that's interesting is that it has there are some like Western feel to it, even though it's still Asian. And I feel like maybe diaspora has played a pretty big role in that. Is like there's tons of Korean Americans, there's tons of Korean Germans, also like French Koreans and Korean Australians. And I feel like if you look at Korean diaspora globally, it's like 15% of Korean heritage people in existence are like Korean diaspora. And I feel like that cultural back and forth has probably had an influence on Korea's development as well. And so seems like the number of interesting conversations that exist in the future is very, very high, So thank you, Kim, for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.